Welcome back to the Enjoy the Walk podcast. As always, this is your host, Dalton, with my good friends, Isaiah and Dante. Happy New Year's, guys. We're in 2020.
What's happening? Long time no see. It's good to be in 2020 for now.
So far,
The
so good, right, guys?
Yeah.
good old roaring 20s.
Oh, man, I tell you what, if this is the decade we go back to the Gatsby era parties, I'm all about it. Sign me up.
That'd be
I
fairly
think
dapper.
I saw some posts, I think, on Instagram of people having Gatsby parties,
Yeah,
ringing
it's
in
time.
2020.
It's absolutely time. Well, I know what else it's time for, guys. We are going to do an entire podcast today on what we think each of our top 10 moments of the last decade, the 2010s, was as far as the golf industry goes. So top 10 moments as far as, people, places, things happen, technology, whatever top 10 that we thought. We're going to go over it today, guys, and hopefully you guys enjoy following along, and it brings back some good memories of the golf industry as a whole. And hopefully, if you guys want to reach out to us and tell us what you think your top 10 is, feel free to tag us on Instagram and Twitter @_enjoy the walk. So guys, let's get into this. Isaiah, what's your 10? What's your number 10 on that list?
Man, you would think it would be something related to Tiger Woods, since 10 is technically our number one. But
I could have made a top 10 just on Tiger Woods. Let's put that out there.
I think we all could have, if we're being honest. But for the sake of how much publicity he already gets by himself and the prowess that he has on the course, I decided to go with someone else, Xander Schauffele, and his first rookie winning appearance at the Tour Championship.
I love that. He came out, I wouldn't say came out of nowhere that year, but as a rookie, you don't expect a rookie to contend in a Tour championship mentality like that. So I thought it was really neat to see him step up on that big of a stage. And I think, as we've said in previous podcasts, he's knocking at the door to win a major championship very soon, I think, if not in 2020. So now that's a great start to our list here. He's always up there in the top fives of these big major events.
And on top of it all, him coming down the stretch and to make a clutch birdie on the final hole to beat out someone we considered to be more of a seasoned vet in Justin Thomas, for him to step up and to pull out the birdie that he did on the final hole. That's pretty incredible, especially coming up against a guy like Justin Thomas. He's a really solid player.
Yeah, and I think in that year, too, Justin was playing some fiery golf coming down the stretch there. So in what most people that I play with call stones, that took some real stones to bury a putt like that on the 18th in a Tour Championship. So Dante, what's your match to Xander Schauffele at the Tour Championship is your number 10 on the top 10
So
list?
is 10 like the least, and then 1 obviously is going to be our favorite?
We'll finish with our best moment of the 2010s.
All right, so I'm going to go with Jordan Spieth's John Deere holdout win, because that kind of just basically set him up for success for like the next 3-4 years.
Absolutely.
I was watching YouTube videos on the decade, and I was like, wow, I forgot about that. And he's also done it too another time. I forget which tournament that was.
I don't know where it was, but I know it was against Daniel Berger, and I have felt so bad against Daniel Berger because all he could do was give him the thumbs up and be like, you son of a gun, you did it again.
So that's my 10 sitting right. Number 10 is Jordan Spieth.
I had an eerie feeling we were going to have similarities, but I didn't know it was going to happen this soon.
Yep.
I also picked Jordan Spieth, but in a different moment in his career in the 2010s. When he was 16 years old, he made the cut at his first PGA Tour event in Dallas. It was also that same year that he broke an AJGA record of winning by 9 shots, largest margin of victory in an AJGA event. And that was kind of a eerie, not really eerie, but a sign of things to come for Jordan Spieth in his young career. We talk about his win at the John Deere in holding out that bunker shot. And I chose Jordan Spieth's amateur career as like kind of a kickoff of this top 10 because spoiler alert, I might have had him later in my list as well for another defining moment. But yeah, Jordan Spieth was definitely a name to be kind of in the household of the 2010s, no doubt about it.
And it's funny too, because I'm going to be very interested to see what you guys have to say. Like the listeners have heard before, I've gotten to golf later than you guys have. So it's almost going to be a refresher, if not a learning experience. Whoa, that just happened?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny, even just making these lists and kind of just thinking like of the stuff that I even saw myself going over, I was like, oh my Lord, that happened 8 years ago. Like it feels like yesterday, you know? And I'm like, I'm replaying these shots that I watched on TV in my head. And it's like, good Lord, it doesn't feel that long ago. But, you know, something else that doesn't feel long ago, and I'll just jump right into my number 9, is Rory McIlroy's insanity of his play that he had at Congressional in the U.S. Open win at only 22 years old, coming off the absolute meltdown he had at Augusta. What looked like walking into Sunday with the green jacket on the first tee ended up being an absolute blowout or blow up for him, turning that kind of, you know, heartbreak into an absolute blowout at the U.S. Open, beating second place Jason Day by 8 strokes. He put on a driving display and kind of defined his career and what his strong points were at that U.S. Open. So that's my number 9.
You know, I would say with your number 9, Day, he definitely gave up some strokes coming down the stretch. But needless to say, if you're making it that far at that level of golf and playing on Sunday in that event, clearly you're meant to be there and you're a fantastic player. But another guy that's known for giving up strokes would be Kevin Na. As we remember, he gave up, 13 or 14 shots from the woods down in Texas, but that's not the particular event I'm referencing. It would be him playing at the Tour Championship where he recorded the fastest round in PGA history, an hour and 59 minutes. He was basically running between every shot. His goal was to play as fast as he could. And astonishingly, he birdied his last 4 holes of the round. So with the stigma behind playing fast or playing too slow, it just goes to show that if you're not lollygagging, if you're running around sprinting, you don't have to take that much time to.
Now, granted, he was playing by himself that day, correct? It was just him and like a spotter. There was someone walking along with him, keeping score.
Yeah, I would say it was him, his caddy, and most likely a spotter. But aren't the camera crews on the course? Aren't they technically spotters?
Technically, I believe so. And that's just – I love when you say that. And I think we've talked about it before, and we'll surely get into it again in the 2020 season. Pace of play is a serious issue out there on tour. And to see someone have success like that and make 4 birdies in a row while practically sprinting between shots, I mean, it does just go to show it. All this calculation and all this thought process and green reading and this, that, and the other thing, like go out and hit your shot, read the line, make the putt. Golf's a simple game if you break it down. And that's a pretty neat number 9. It's something I forgot about until you brought it up.
Dante, who you got? Who's your number 9?
Jon Rahm, when he sunk that long putt at the Farmers Insurance.
Yeah.
In 17.
Yes, sir.
It kind of goes off of the Jordan, my number 10 with Jordan Spieth, is that I feel as if that putt and that win right there put Jon Rahm more on the radar and kind of put him up for more success down the road for, these upcoming seasons.
Was that his rookie year?
I think it was.
Yeah.
I believe so.
Yeah. Because, that putt, if you look at it, it was like a downhill snake slider, and it was from the fringe. Was it from the fringe?
Oh, yeah. He wasn't on the green. Yeah. He was in the fringe.
And then he sunk it. That was pretty remarkable to see that putt. That could have gone 100 different ways.
Well, that's it. And where the pin placement was on that day,
exactly.
As hard as he hit that putt, if it didn't hit the hole, it had a chance of going, like, there's a false front there that goes right into the water where that pin placement was on Sunday. So, it could have gone a lot different and changed his career. But, yeah, getting that – I feel like anybody on their rookie year that just gets a win out on tour, it just builds so much confidence. And, like, not that they don't have confidence because they're out there already, but it just gives them a sense of, like, hey, I belong here. And not only do I belong here, like, I'm here to stay. because a win on the PGA Tour, and Isaiah, you can correct me if I'm wrong. You might know it a little better, but a win gives you like a guaranteed 2 years, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm. PGA is a guaranteed 2 years.
Yeah. So
and imagine the relief off your shoulders on that, because you're going to go day to day and week by week, tournament by tournament.
Yeah, you kiss Monday qualifiers goodbye for a pretty good while, and that's got to be a damn good feeling.
And that's, I feel like, is a big stress relief to where now you can really hone in on your game and really even take some more aggressive shots in certain rounds, just so you have the secure card at that time to you take a little bit more aggressive swings or more aggressive approach during a tournament that could actually be a better outcome for a win.
Even off the course, I feel like travel wise and, just making your own schedule and saying, hey, if I want to take this week off, like it's not going to cost me my card. Like, and that's another big thing too, where they can just kind of plan their year a little bit more stress free. And he started playing a lot of like European Tour events too. And as you see this year with him winning the race to Dubai, he's a world-class player and he's around to stay for a long time. But kind of speaking of like all world-class play and everything, my number 8 is rule changes and the new rules that came out in 2019. And, I think the biggest rule change of them all is playing or your drop from the knee. I'm not 100% sold that everyone's still doing it correctly.
No.
And if they are, it looks so wimpy and so just non-athletic. It's just possibly the worst rule change out of everything that I think a lot of good movement has been made in these 2019 rule changes. I think for pace of play, 5 minutes to 3 minutes, I'm looking for your ball, playing up on any of these hazards, without a bounds, you can drop and play with the 1-stroke penalty. I think there's a lot of things that are moving the game forward, but that's got to be one of the most unathletic rule changes I think the game's ever made.
Yeah, I'd say we took a step forward in a lot of different areas for rule changes, but in a sense, we've also taken 2 steps back. So we've put in a lot of effort, or the USGA rather put in a lot of effort to redefine what a bunker is or what a hazard is or the general area or penalty area. But one of my biggest pet peeves that we'll probably never see changed is not being able to move your ball out of a divot in the middle of the fairway. And if you're one of those people that regularly hits fairways, you will complain if you say that they shouldn't change that rule. Well, obviously you don't hit too many fairways, so you can just shut up.
Well, and I think too, when you start getting into tournament golf, as we've seen, there's especially if you're on the same course for 4 days straight, the same landing areas, no matter how much they move the tees 10, 15 yards up, back, or whatever, you're hitting out of the same spots. And come the 3rd day, and especially the 4th day, you're going to find at least 2 or 3 divots throughout the day, especially if you're really playing good golf. And it is one of those frustrating things. It's like you're being penalized for good shots. And I think there's a lot of room in the rules to still allow people to be, or I should say there's a lot of area in the rules to be had yet to let people be rewarded for good shots that are still being penalized. So I think that's a great point. And, I think we'll round off that conversation by saying, or getting your guys' opinion on the whole flag stick in or out rule. That has been the most viral rule that has, taken over this year's PGA and maybe R&A. I don't know if the R&A will jump on board. But
speaking of that, I have mixed feelings with the flag stick in. On a pace of play level, I definitely think it speeds up play at times, especially if you're playing with a group of guys who, are just going out and having some fun and just hacking it around. Who cares? You don't have to worry about it because they may not even be the best of putters. On the flip side, there's a little bit more negatives, in my opinion. Now it's, if say you have a 50-foot putt or even a 4-foot putt, the question is, before, do you want me to 10 that?
Yeah.
Now it's just, you want it in or out. You want it in or you want it out every single time. And then even with your group of your foursome, You're talking about whipping around as you're walking up to the green or while you're on the green. Hey, you guys like it in or you like it out? And then you got to explain, well, if it's outside 10 feet, I like it in. If it's inside 10 feet, I want it out. And then the group's like, yeah, I agree with you. We'll just take it out. And it's almost as if you have to feel
it's brought peer pressure back into it, because if one person of the group doesn't agree,
you're trying to enjoy your round, but in the back of your mind, now you're worrying about the 3 other playing partners. Well, what if I want it out? They all like it in. How am I going to look? Screw it. I'm just going to put it in. And then you hit a shot and it ricochets right off the pin. I'm pissed. And I've had that. I've taken 3-foot putts and I just playing by myself after work. Boom.
Well, now it does. It just brings in that whole like catch-22. Even if you pull it out and you hit it a little too hard and it pops off the back and goes out again, it's like, well, what if I put it in? It's like now it's a never-ending conversation.
Yeah, but that's my viewpoint on the pin.
It's definitely been the most controversial rule, I believe, of 2019, and not really controversial as in people hating the rule, but just the controversial from the aspect of people choosing one side or the other, or just being stuck in the middle. So, yeah, that's my 8, and I'd love to hear your guys' 8s.
Dante, what's yours?
My 8 is Nike leaving the golf manufacturing business.
Ooh.
In 16. I think they were on the brink of making some solid stuff at around that time coming out. I'm looking at some, models. They can do away with some of the loud colors, and that's not my thing. But they were pushing and making some solid clubs. I don't know. Maybe it was kind of the uncertainty of Tiger, but yeah, Nike leaving golf and manufacturing clubs and all that. I don't know. I think that would have been a miss on their part. Granted, they're making a lot more money elsewhere, so they probably were like they didn't want to put that much R&D and time and money into something that they felt probably the profit margin wasn't as what they wanted to see. But yeah, my number 8, Nike leaving the golf industry on a manufacturer aspect.
Yeah, I feel that's a great one. And I always look back on it now, especially with, Tiger having the success he's been having over the last 2 years now, and, the major win. And if they could have held on a little longer, I feel like the boom of Nike products in 2019 would have surpassed maybe a couple years of loss that they were taking on. Because, you just look at TaylorMade now and them coming out with the Tiger Wood blades and a lot of the Tiger Wood merch. And it's just anything that Tiger Woods associates himself with is a cash cow, especially when he's winning. So, that's a great one. And I think it was a little bit of a shock to the golf industry when they did kind of pull out of the club market. But like you said, them focusing in on just clothing has definitely not hurt them.
No,
it almost seems
the revenue with the clothing industry is enormous. Their profit margins are incredible. But
when you see them dive into the Jordans now too,
mm-hmm.
The Jordan market with the golf shoes and everything. And I definitely think that probably from a strategic perspective in a long term, Tiger's going to fizzle out, and he was their guy. They didn't really have anybody after him. Rory was with him for a little bit. Once he left, they didn't have a team. They didn't have a deep set, or like what these guys call now a stable of players that, to pull from. So, to ride or die on one guy had to be stressful.
Yeah.
Well, when your one guy has, a freaking $1 billion sitting in his bank account, that's not the most concerning. But I would say their golf ball was horrible at best when it started.
Absolutely.
Drivers
the fact that they had a specific golf ball just for Tiger, that like they were probably just painting Nike logos on Pro Vs at that point, because
Bridgestone.
It was legitimately, they had no good marketable golf ball at all.
All was terrible. Drivers were actually decent. I hit a couple of those. I liked the way they sounded. Heck of a lot better than that Nike Sasquatch driver they had made when they came out with the Victory Series driver.
That thing was a tin can.
The square one.
Yeah, that was a beast. You knew where the player on the course was that had that Nike driver at all times.
Absolutely. And if any of our listeners don't know what we're talking about, just look up a simple YouTube video or go to like your local thrift store, because that's about the only place most of those Sasquatches end up these days are our local thrift stores.
You'll find them. So for me, it didn't bother me that much that Nike got out of the club making industry. There's so many other highly competitive companies that were out there making far more technologically advanced equipment in comparison to what Nike had to offer, with probably the exception of the Tiger Woods blades. Those are probably the most beautiful irons I have ever seen in production. But moving on to my number 8 is actually going to be Phil Mickelson's chip from behind the green. I want to say it was at the Wyndham, where he had flown the green a little long and appeared to the left. There was actually how would you describe it, a railroad type bunker that he'd flown over, and he elected to not call an official in the situation. And the ball was sitting behind this wall, right? So he flies it over and he ends up hitting the chip to about 2-3 feet after hitting the wooden boards. So the ball makes contact with it, pops up in the air, lands on the green, rolls to about a kick in.
What year was that again?
I want to say it was 2015 or 16. Don't quote me on that. But it was an incredible shot. So that would be my number 8. Show some love for the lefties.
It's really funny. And I'm going to roll into I'd hate to cut your 8 short, but I'm going to just keep rolling on the Phil Mickelson theme, because my 7 is also Phil Mickelson. So we can kind of play on Phil a little bit here. But just to tell you how good the rest of the decade got, this is at 7. And I think this is one of the most historic shots in golf history. Mickelson's shot at 13 from the pine straw en route to his first Masters win in 2010. So it came just at the beginning of the decade. But that shot has been played on every highlight reel of every Masters introduction since it happened. And the fact that he had to talk his caddy out of it more than like 7 times, his caddy wanted him to lay up bad, and Mickelson just would not let Bones talk him out of it. So the fact that he, after his caddy wanted to like snap his club in half, was allowed to hit that shot, let alone pull it off, I think is one of the most incredible Phil Mickelson moments of the decade for sure, and probably one of the best golf moments in history.
Did you watch the Phil Mickelson interview with Faraday
on the Golf Channel? I did not.
So educate us.
He brought up that scenario, that pine straw shot, and he told Faraday that was the highest percentage shot that he had, because he's a numbers guy. He's all about the numbers, and he said out of all the options that he could have done, his best chance of getting the best score was hitting that shot.
Wow. I guess, and the only reason I can think of, because I haven't seen that interview, but the only reason I can think that it was a high percentage is because he knew it was going to fly out of that pine straw. So worst case scenario, it was long. He definitely wasn't going to end up short in Race Creek unless he somehow snapped his hands on that tree in front of him. But, I mean, what an epic shot. And just in the moment on a Sunday at Augusta, when most people, as we saw in this past year, just choke it down the stretch, he puts a long iron to tap in range on a par 5 into. I mean, absolutely epic. And I think Isaiah, it goes back to your number 8. I think he's just got a little bit more, I don't know if it's just confidence or just know-how of how to play those shots. And maybe it goes back to what Dante said and being a numbers guy and just kind of taking that risk, that calculated risk. But Mickelson's ended up on a lot of top 10s here.
Years and experience. That's what it comes down to. I mean, he's been hitting golf balls longer than any of us have been alive. So Absolutely. He just knows his way around the golf course, and he knows what he's capable of doing. And when you've put 40,000 hours in, you know exactly what you can do when you need to do it. So,
amen.
I think
so. Dante, what is your does your number 7 involve Phil Mickelson too?
Nope. My number 7 is the Italian stallion Francisco Molinari and his Open Championship win. I got to give love to the Italian. I thought that was just awesome because he kind of was like always around and he was there, but I believe during that time he just was grinding on his game and just became so consistent with his irons and, was working with coaches to gain speed. So I don't think he was the longest hitter before, and then was able to gain all this yardage and just came out and just won. That was pretty cool to see. You know, you see them in the mix here and there, but then you see other players. You see your Rickies, your Jordans, your Tigers, your Phils. It's like almost the same people. And then Francisco comes out of nowhere and, wins that. And it kind of almost wasn't like Tiger not too far behind. It was almost like a battle between the
They
two.
were battling down the stretch until Tiger made that double.
Yeah. Then you got Tiger. Then you got Tiger Woods in it too. So
I'll never forget. It's actually really funny, and it's like I'll never forget it because of Francesco Molinari, but I'll never forget that weekend because Tiger was in the mix. I was actually at the beach that weekend, and my dad and I hiked it in early to go watch Tiger possibly win another major. And then, not to say that Tiger gave it to him because Francesco was just unflappable all weekend that year. But Tiger made that weird double down the stretch where he pulled it left of the bunker and tried to, be the hero shot and left it back in the bunker.
Yep.
But yeah, talking about Francesco Molinari being one of those guys that was never long, Dante, I think he's your height or a little taller. So he's one of those shorter, like Italian players. And he has done worlds to put distance in his game the last 3 years. And it's really paid off on a completely world level of golf.
Yeah, it was definitely awesome to see because, Tiger's coming back in the mix. I'm in the golf now. I see Francisco Molinari. I had Italian heritage. It's in my blood. I was torn between the two. I wanted, it was cool to see Francisco win because that's just awesome to see. But at the same, and I was, all right, come on, Tiger, let's make some history here. But yeah, that was awesome. So that was my number 7.
I love that. And now it's I didn't give any love to the Europeans or to the other guys. I stuck to mostly an American favored top 10, but as you'll see a little later, I don't think it's all American. So we'll get into that. But what is all American is my number 6. I chose the Task Force as my number 6. What they dubbed the innovative team of captains after the 2014 loss in the Ryder Cup. Freddie Couples, Tiger Woods, Steve Stricker, all those guys got together and said, listen, we're sick of getting our asses kicked by these damn Europeans and Ian Poulter and his stupid Euro superhuman putter. Let's fix this shit. And so I think the task force has been something great for American golf since they formed that in 2014. Including this year's Ryder or President's Cup at Royal Melbourne. They are 5-1. They've only lost one Ryder Cup since. So I think, as far as a resurgence of American golf, playing well in these world events and the Ryder Cup and the President's Cup, it's done a great deal to help, I think, the overall camaraderie too. I think you look at the U.S. teams prior to 2014, especially when Tiger was in his early years, guys weren't necessarily like best friends. They were just kind of, oh, well, yeah, you're USA, I'm USA, I guess I'll have to play with you. Now it's these guys are like, we're brothers, dude. I want to play with you. You see Spieth and Thomas going out and trying to be wanting to play with each other. And in the most recent President's Cup, freaking JT and Tiger looked like brothers out there playing like they had played, together since high school. I mean, it just the camaraderie of the team since the task force has looked a lot better. And I think that was definitely a highlight of the last decade.
Yeah. I honestly thought it was corny as hell when it came out.
I think we all did. We're like, what is this? What are we doing? Like Star Wars now? What are we?
I was like, are you kidding me? I just shook my head, but based on what you're saying, statistics show. So I guess it was a good thing. But at first when I saw that, I just put my head down, shook it, and it's like, why?
I think we all had to at first, though, right? Because we had just gotten shellacked for like the last 17 years. And it's like, what are we going back to grade school with this task force that's going to whip us into shape? And then, I don't know, 8 years later, here we are, and it's paid off so far.
My God, yeah.
For those conversations, though, when the task force comes in, wouldn't you just love to be a fly on the wall during that conversation to see what's actually said? Because I highly doubt that anything the captains are going to say has anything that's highly motivational or is going to completely change the thought processes of the players. I mean, we're talking about the best players in the world. How are two captains going to completely shift that momentum in their thought processes?
I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but Tiger Woods has been a part of it, whether he's been a player or not, since 16, I think, when he was co-captain at the Ryder Cup when he was still hurt.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm not a top world player, so I don't really know how this works, but if Tiger Woods steps in the room and gives me a little speech, it might work.
Yeah, I got my pen and pencil out at that
Yeah.
point. But in previous years when Tiger was not a captain.
Oh, I'm not letting Hale Irwin convince me of playing good golf. I mean, I don't know about you, but I think he was a great golfer, and no disrespect to Hale Irwin, but you're not getting me pumped up to go out there and step on throats like Tiger Woods is going to be able to do. And I think now Tiger's 44. He's got 30 more years to be a captain at least. He'll be a playing captain at the Ryder Cup next year. I can guarantee that.
Mm-hmm.
Or 4 years from now if someone else is already the captain at Whistling Straits. But Tiger's on that team for a long time, and that's going to pay dividends.
Absolutely.
So that's my 6. How about you, Logue? What do you got for 6?
Man. Mine is actually going to take us back to Whistling Straits with Jason Day and his PGA Championship win as his first major.
Yeah, that was pretty big. Because I do remember that because he took – was it that par 3? All I remember, he like bombed one right down the middle or did something, and then I think Jordan just gave him the thumbs up. Basically, like, this was like yours. Like, congrats. Yeah, I remember that. He was tightrope. He was just ripping and that course is very challenging. I don't know if you guys ever played there, but seeing the videos, and I never played there.
I haven't,
but I don't even know if I want to go play there. Just looking at all the bunkers, I'd walk off. I'd get so heated.
All I do remember of that week, and I don't remember much of it, but he was one of the most mentally locked in dudes that entire week. Just you could see him. He was closing his eyes on the tee box, visiting the shot, stepping up, going through his routine each and every time. And if something went wrong just on a little like blip of like, oh, I didn't step into it right, he'd step off and he'd do the whole thing again, like from the top. I just remember that being something vivid that I remember from that week. And it just goes to speak of like the mentality you have to step into a major championship, I think. And Jason Day was just so locked in that year.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Just sucks that he's on the slower pace, but
yeah.
Well, and now he struggled with vertigo, and I mean that's a whole other conversation for another day. But Jason Day is definitely, when he's on, is still today a world-class golfer.
But his story further behind that, if the listeners don't know, Jason Day was literally raised in a junkyard in Australia and scrounged some money together to get to go to a quote unquote golf academy. And then from there it springboarded his career into college golf. And, at that point he just grinded his tail off, and now you see the success he's having today. But in majors, I want to say he was in the top 5 finishers in 7 majors before he finally broke through. So when Spieth gave him a thumbs up, Spieth knew there was blood in the water, and that tournament was his to win. And it showed when he got to the 18th hole. He had about a 50-foot lag putt, which, if you guys don't know, in tournament golf, I'd say lag putts are some of the hardest shots that you have to execute. And he nearly made it. He lagged it from 50 feet. It appeared to break pretty hard from right to left to about a foot from the hole. So his distance control was great, nearly made it. And he started breaking down crying before he even got up to hit his second putt. So yeah, it was pretty awesome.
I think those kind of stories is what golf needs more of, those kind of like rags to riches stories. Cause we talk about it all the time. We do this podcast for everyday listeners and everyday people who just love to play the game, that, if you're listening and have $1 million in the bank account, then good for you. But we come from, everyday folk, and we love those stories of the guys that didn't start with much and ended up making it big on tour. And another guy that I can think of that kind of had that same grow up that's playing in Tournament of Champions this weekend is Joaquin Niemann. He started on a little farm in Chile and is, came up through the junior ranks with just hand-me-down clubs, anything they could find just to scrap him together to play any kind of competitive golf. And now he's a winner on the PGA Tour. So
like the same as Seve Ballesteros.
Yeah, I love that story. Yeah,
I watched that movie. He grew up on the farm, and they were all about him playing golf and all that. But he came from just your working class family. Wasn't really handed. I mean, he had to find the clubs or make them.
Yeah, and I would love to find more folks like that, and I know there's more stories out there like that on not only the tour, but Korn Ferry Tour and the Canadian Tour and some of the lower tours as well. So I'd love to, if any of our listeners have connections with folks that have that kind of upbringing, please let us know, and we would love to have them on the show and shoot the shit with them, because that's what we're here for. So tag us at _enjoy the walk, either Instagram or Twitter, and hopefully we can find out some more of those stories and bring them to you guys. But all right, guys, that wraps up the first 5 for us. We're into our top 5 now. How do we think we've done so far?
Pretty solid.
I think we're just scratching the surface. I think these top 5 are going to be pretty special.
I think we got some good ones coming up.
All right, Isaiah, you lead us off.
I'd say mine's not anything too spectacular. I mean, if you consider Dustin Johnson hitting a 430-yard drive to be not that special. But if you remember last year at the Century Tournament of Champions, or actually 2 years ago, we just got to 2020. So 2018 Century Tournament of Champions. Dustin hit his drive, 430 yards on the 12th hole. Mind you, a little bit downhill, and I think a little bit downwind as well. But the end result was a 2-foot putt for Eagle, I think.
Now, you called it not that special, but Brandel Chambly might have called it the greatest shot ever hit in golf.
Yeah.
So take that with a grain of salt, but that was pretty freaking sweet. And that thing had to hit Velcro. I remember watching it on TV, and this ball was careening off the, this steep downslope, hits the green, rolls. I know these greens are rolling fast down there. They're not like your local Muni. And then all of a sudden, 4 inches to the hole, it just says not today and just stops.
Yeah.
It should have went in, and I'm still calling BS on it not going in.
TaylorMade drivers, they're rigged.
That's I was probably gonna put that down, but I didn't, because to be honest, I wasn't. That was an insane shot, but also a lot of factors that, like you were saying, like the downhill and the wind helped them out. But to me, about that shot is what you were saying, Dalton and Isaiah. How did it just stopped? Just literally stopped. I mean, you're looking. I know. I've experienced Hawaii ground. It's hard as a rock. That ball was flying. I mean, they're putting in between 175 and 180 ball speed. You're downwind, downhill. You're hitting that ground. That ball's coming off hot. And for it to stop with the 2 inches like that, as if it was like a little wedge shot, was weird.
Now, speaking of those ball speed numbers and just jumping right into my number 5, my number 5 is the TrackMan technology and the Flight Scope, as an overall overarching technology that's been brought to the game here in the last decade. Now, it was 2003 that TrackMan was first invented, but it wasn't until 2011 that TrackMan was made a mobile technology that could be brought to the course. Now you see every tour player in existence having either themselves or their crew carrying a little orange briefcase with a TrackMan inside that they're taking with them on the practice screens. They're taking it with them out in the course, to track launches off of downhill lies, uphill lies, whatever it may be. And I think that technology, being as mobile as it is now and in the last decade, has completely changed the way any person looking to go professional or any pro that's out there on tour practices. It's completely changed the way we look at the game of golf. And I think it's because of all that information.
I mean, you're basically dialing in your swing. Like you got wind in the face, you got a little uphill, and you know a number you got to hit. You know that exact swing. I think that's pretty cool. I love TrackMan. I love going down the second swing. Every bay has it. I wish I could have one, but they're so damn expensive. I don't know.
No free ads, but second swing's the spot to be.
Yeah.
No, actually, I got a little note here that when it was first invented, it was $200,000 per TrackMan machine. Now they're around like 15 to 20, depending on the model you get, and all the
Now is that just for the machine?
accessories.
Because I think you have to still pay for the software too, right?
I think it's like a yearly update for the software, but I know right up front, out of the box, ready to use is like 15 grand, 20 grand, somewhere around there.
Yeah,
but still,
here's my credit card.
Used to be 200,000. Yeah. So TrackMan's come a long way, and the technology's come a long way, and I won't be surprised if within the next decade, something as small as your computer in your hand, or your phone in your hand, is what's tracking everything that you need to know about what TrackMan's doing today.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And from the Korn Ferry events I've played, if you don't have a TrackMan, you're probably the only one on the driving range or on the course that doesn't have one of those. But that being said, you also have to have fairly deep pockets. The cheapest I've been able to find them with a special discount is around 10 grand starting. I don't know if that includes software. That might be covered with how advanced the technology is now. Software updates might just do it automatically. But if you get a TrackMan, you've also got to purchase an iPad or some other tablet to pair with it. Otherwise, you can't view numbers. So to be able to dial in your spin rates, launch angles, to be able to adjust specifically playing courses at altitude, even at 800 feet, you're looking at a 2-3 yard difference plus or minus. So to be able to recognize that and take a TrackMan everywhere to calculate those numbers for you, it takes the guesswork out.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's my number 5. And, I think there's still room to be had in that industry, but it's brought the golf game a leaps and bounds from where it was before all this technology was so mobile. So Dante, how do you round out your number 5?
I'm going to go with my dear friend. Well, not really. Ricky Fowler at the Players in 2015 when he had to play 17. Was it 3 times? 2 or 3 times?
On a Sunday 3 times, right? It was 3 times on a Sunday?
Yeah, and just hit perfect shots every single time. That's hard to do coming down in the quote-unquote unofficial 5th major that all the players some say it to be. So that's a lot of pressure. I mean, that's a huge field. It's a very strong field, and to come out and do that, and I believe it was Mother's Day as well too. So he did it. His mom was there.
Funny story about, I believe, his mom and his girlfriend that were there at the time. He was 6 strokes back going into that Sunday round too.
Really?
Which made that last push so exciting. His mom and girlfriend had left for the airport. They were like basically boarding a plane, and then he gets to like 17 in the first round, in the final round, before all the playoffs, and he's on I think he birdied 4 of the last 5 or something like that to get into the playoff. So his girlfriend and mother had to turn around from the airport and make it back for this playoff. So, his final round alone was something to be, enamored at. And then the shots he hit on 17 back to back to back were just absolutely insane. I don't think anything was outside of 5 feet.
No, that pin location, the green was so tiny. If you were looking at where he was just throwing darts there at that time. I mean, and that was
the first time Kevin Kisner really made a push at a big tournament too, because I think that's who he beat in that tournament.
Yeah, I was watching the video today, and that's he congratulated him there. Yeah, he was playing against Kevin Kisner.
And just to see how Kevin Kisner was playing great golf for like about 3 or 4 weeks, and when you beat someone who's peaking like that too, like Kevin Kisner was at that time, you got to hit some stellar shots, and Ricky did that, which was a true testament to not only it had been his time in previous tournaments, and he kind of let him slip away, So to have him finally grab a marquee win like that was huge for not only him then, but like his career as an entirety.
Oh, yeah.
Speaking of stellar golf shots, I'm going to move on to my number 4, which is going to take us back to, I believe it was 2011, the Masters Championship at Augusta National, the first playoff hole number 10. You remember one of the players decided he was going to hit it in the fairway, and then, of course, Bubba Watson in the trees down the right-hand side. If you remember the other guy, he hit it 20 feet, 30 feet, decent shot by all means. But Bubba, he was deep in the hippie lettuce over there. I mean, he was gone. He was searching for Sasquatch. But from 156 yards, he hooks a 52 or 54-degree wedge, whichever it was, hooks it a solid 20, 30 yards out and around the trees, lands on the green, and spins up to about 15 feet. By far, that's probably one of the most incredible wedge shots ever. Yeah.
Yeah,
that thing had sauce.
that was one of mine early years, since I wasn't really in the golf at the time. Though it was actually 2012, and that was my number 3. I wrote the Bubba hook.
Mm-hmm.
I remember watching that too. My dad had it on, and I came home probably from lacrosse practice or something, and I get there and I'm watching the TV, and he just hits, like, I think he hooded it, and he just whips this thing around, and to wrap it take it out of the woods, wrap it around those trees, and then stick it to the green like that. Definitely one of my favorite shots in golf of all time.
Yeah, and I think it was so cool too, and this is the way I look at it, and maybe it's something you guys haven't seen, but like, he was wearing all white on that Sunday.
Yeah.
So to hit it that deep in the woods, he just stuck out like a sore thumb. It was one of those points where, like, everyone in America could relate. It was like, yeah, he hit his golf ball to where he just simply shouldn't be. And I think a lot of us have done that before. And especially as you start climbing deeper and deeper into the woods, you get within the leaves and the trees and then all the patrons around him. It was such an iconic picture of him just so far deep. All you could see was green kind of canopy and people around him. And I just thought it was just made for a picture perfect moment.
And done that before. I still do that. Get out of here.
I was gonna say we can relate to Bubba only in the tee shot, not the entirety of the rest of the hole.
Yeah.
But no, kind of bumping off of that, my number 4 actually goes into golf at more of a worldwide scale, and golf showing up in the Olympics for the first time in over 80 years. It was just such a cool spectacle to see, with not only the course being built specifically for the Olympics, but just seeing golf at a world scale like that, and seeing both professionals and amateurs play in an event like that for an Olympic medal was something that was just truly, I don't think anyone alive or anyone I know has been able to see golf in the Olympics. So it was just truly a spectacle for the game as a whole. And then Justin Rose coming out on top, I feel like kind of reinvigorated his game a little bit. He went on to, win a lot of world events after that. And Stenson being right up there in the mix, getting silver, and Kuchar getting bronze. It just kind of it really did show at that time who was the best players in the world. And it, whether it sticks around for another 80 years or they, kick it out, all I hope is within the next Olympics, we see Tiger Woods at least compete for a gold medal. 'Cause that's kind of the only thing on his resume that no one else has within the last 80 years, especially with Jack and, Gary Player and those guys, they weren't able to compete for a gold medal. So as if Tiger Woods needs any more bolstering to that resume of his, and an Olympic medal would be pretty sweet to add on top of that.
Yeah. And to go off of that, I mean, one I thought was cool was both men and women played the same course that week. So it was cool to see how they, it's the same game, but it's 2 different games at the same time. It was awesome to see how they both played, how they attacked the course.
Yeah, and I think that gets lost a lot in the yearly, in the yearly events, because women are at one place and men are at another, and you never really get to see kind of a co-ed event like that where you're seeing different tees being played and different shots being hit just because of it being women hitting the shot versus men hitting the shot and playing it from different tees and vice versa. So I think that is really neat to see in such a short span like that. Like, oh, wow, the women have played it like that and the men played it like that. And, not ever saying we're knocking the women, because it's just cool to see that contrast of golf being played at the same venue in a short amount of time like that.
Absolutely. Yeah, that was pretty cool to see.
And I'm looking here because I'm really interested to see now what your gold, silver, bronze was. Looks like Inbee Park took home that gold medal for the women's with Lydia Ko, which she went on an absolute tear in the previous decade. Wasn't on my list, but she went on an absolute tear at such a young age. And then Sashan Feng from China took home bronze. So a couple of Americans in the list, in the top 10, Stacey Lewis, Charlie Hall from Great Britain. But, just to see so many different world representatives for the game in the men's women's side was really neat to see.
Yeah. And that's something like doesn't happen. That's every 4 years. It's not a routine thing that you get to see. And when you have that opportunity and you get called saying, hey, we want you to represent your country to play in the Olympics, that's something that definitely when's my next flight? I'm out there, and the fact that like Ricky Fowler even got the Olympic rings tattooed on his arm just says and means a lot to how much that means to those players who were able to participate in it.
Absolutely.
But also we have the Ryder Cup, which is essentially our golf version of the Olympics to begin with, but to see it be taken to a much larger platform from a media perspective, that's really cool to see that as well.
Yeah, I felt like there was a need for it too, and this is kind of the last thing I'll say on it, and then I'll let you guys get to your fours. But this, like you said, the Ryder Cup is like our thing, but it's not at a world level because it's just Europe versus the US. And then we have the President's Cup that brings in the internationals, but golf doesn't have like a World Cup per se, or like a true, or until it was brought back into the Olympic spectacle, a true like cup like that. So I would still even like to see something be added where it's a team event sort of deal. Take your top maybe 4 from each country, bring it together, or whatever. And I still think there's room to be added in that. But that's the last thing I'll say about that. I think golf in the Olympics is great for the game, and I can't wait to see what the next Olympics holds.
Absolutely. Dante, what's your number 3? You're on number 3, right?
We on number 3? Well, my number 3 was already said. It was the Bubba Hook.
Yeah,
in
that's right.
2012. So,
and I think you both have your 4s yet. I do believe. I could be mistaken.
My number 4 was Tiger Woods winning the Masters.
Yeah.
Well, you better have 3 good ones after that. Is all I gotta say.
Well, we
That's
already got
all
the
I
one.
gotta say.
Listen, I got another one.
All right.
Yeah, number 4 is these are top 10 in 10 years. So
I know. I'm just saying.
Yeah, Tiger Woods winning the Masters,
All
2019.
Right. No, that was I don't have too much to say about that other than it was iconic. Absolutely iconic. Yeah, I'm going to let it go at that because I could go on for hours and I'm not even going to open the can. That's just everybody knows. It's been so recent. Everybody knows. It's just iconic.
That's all I have to say about that one.
No doubt.
Logue, 4?
So my 4 was – it was actually going to be Spieth's hole out, his bunker shot at the John Deere. So instead, I'll go ahead and move on to what would be my number 4 now. It's actually the official start of the 2019 Masters. So if you guys don't know, if you don't watch the Masters, which if you don't, well, you need to. Arnold Palmer, Gary Player, and Jack Nicklaus always start off the Masters with their ceremonial opening tee shots. And the golf industry definitely missed one of its huge influencers this year with Arnold Palmer passing. But I thought it was an incredible moment to see Gary Player break down in tears on the opening tee shot. And I think it was because they all were missing their buddy that had been with them, that had enjoyed the walk with them for 50, 60, 70 years, whatever it has been. So for me, I think that was probably the coolest moment for the 2019 Masters, aside from Tiger wrapping it up with a solid win.
And how cool was it too, just to see Arnie's family there, his old bag with his old clubs and his old green jacket. It's very apparent that once you start, becoming golf's elite, that it's a very tight-knit industry and it's a very family-oriented industry. We even saw it with just some of the media that got to hang out with Gary Player. Once you get into the golf industry, it's a very small community, and they treat everyone like family. And especially, it doesn't take much to treat someone right, but it goes a long way to treat someone right. And looking at, the epitome of character and the way to treat someone right was Arnold Palmer. So it showed in leaps and bounds that he was the person and everyone's idol and everyone's buddy on that first tee, missing him at Augusta. So that was huge.
For sure. And, not to toot my own horn, but after playing some good golf in high school, I actually received a personal letter from Arn himself. So for a guy like that to take the time out of his day to write a letter to me, which in the grand scheme of things, a guy winning a state championship means absolutely nothing. But for a guy like that to take time out of his day to write a personal letter, that means the world to me, or meant the world to me, still does, still have the letter. Definitely will miss seeing him open up the Masters each year.
Absolutely. And kind of just touch on that too. One of my good friends from college, Nick Biondi, if you're out there, buddy, I hope you're listening. Nick wrote him a letter back in high school, and, it wasn't even for winning anything. It was just reaching out to Mr. Palmer and, telling him how much he appreciated what he did for the game, being from Pennsylvania. And Nick also got a letter back from Mr. Palmer. So it does speak to just how he truly did think about every one of his fans. And there's a reason there's a tournament after him now and a whole foundation surrounding Arnold Palmer. And people getting the Arnold Palmer Award for being, an upstanding individual. And definitely Arnold Palmer's presence will be missed in great multitude here in the next however long golf is being played. I think he'll still always be remembered, but his true presence is missed.
Back an Arnold Palmer beverage for him tonight.
Yes, sir. We'll tip one back to you, Arnie. So without getting too many teary eyes going on here, I'll jump into my number 3, and it's actually going back to Rory McIlroy. So I usually don't like to put on a top 10 the same person twice, but I feel like he in the past decade has absolutely earned it. His 2016 Tour Championship. The way he finished out that Tour Championship was absolutely insane. Holing a 140-yard wedge shot on the par 4 16th. Ends up shooting 64 in the last round to get him into the three-way playoff. Ends up winning the three-way playoff with like a 25-footer. Played well all week long. So, I mean, he just absolutely put on a display. And that was kind of the culmination of him playing a damn good year of golf that year as well. And I think that's kind of propelled him not only, he had a couple majors before that, but I think it propelled him into just absolute tear. He's been playing unbelievable golf. And he's another one where I'm looking in 2020 to really contend for a major. He's hot, and it's only a matter of time.
Think he'll get that green jacket soon?
He's on my short list of guys for 2020 at the Masters. I'm gonna put that out there right now. I'm not saying who I'm picking for the Masters yet, but he's on a short list.
Shoot, I'll throw mine out there right now.
Yeah,
but I'm not going to. So
that's right. We got you. All right, boys. What's your number 3?
Well, my number 3 is real short and sweet. We already discussed it. Bubba Hook.
Yep.
So we can just move on.
That's it, Logue. All right, where are we at, Logue?
I'm surprised nobody has put this one down yet. I really am. But does anyone remember Bill Haas holing out not holing out, but hitting his I guess we call it a bunker chip shot.
Is that from the water?
Yeah.
From the water. That was my number 2.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man. That was so incredible that he wanted to play that in a situation like that. He could have taken a bogey and I believe still been in a playoff. Like a par won it outright, but a bogey would have got him into a playoff. So to have the I don't even know what you call it. Do you call it just dumb? I don't know, but he played it to perfection.
Sometimes you have to just play that way in order to, take those shots and pull them off. Is don't think and just play dumb.
Boy, it
and
was
just
impressive,
go
though.
with it.
I think it ties into Bubba too.
Yeah,
Bubba's hook
Yeah.
shot. I mean, you see the shot, you feel it, and you hit it. Just like in the movie 7 Days in Utopia. See it, feel it, trust it.
Oh, I love that movie.
That's what it comes down to. I mean, Haas saw the shot, knew he could hit it, and just executed.
Quick recommendation, because I don't want to completely jump over that reference if none of our listeners know that. There's a great movie out there called 7 Days in Utopia, golf movie. Really, really good movie. It's I'll just give you this little tagline. It's from one of the guys teaching in that movie, teaching the game of golf. He says, "See it, feel it, trust it." Absolutely go out there and watch it. Great golf movie. And I guarantee you, if you watch it once, you'll probably watch it about 10 times. So quick
Robert
recommendation
Duvall,
from us.
Lucas Black, KJ
Back
Toy.
to the top
Lucas
10.
Black,
But also,
yeah, that was my number 2. So Dante, I'll let you roll on with yours.
All right, so I broke your rule already. I have a player more than once on my top 10. And to try and prove you wrong as to why Tiger's Master win was number 4, I think Tiger's comeback at the Tour Championship trumps the Tigers Masters win, just because of everything that just went down and what he's been through over the past decade and the previous years of his injury and the spinal fusion and all that, to just come back, and the fact that he walked up through, had to run through the people coming up behind him, and McIlroy's sitting there and he's like, "Is this what's going on?" You could see it on his face, like, this is insane to them have him go up and win that. That's my number 2 right there, is that Tour Championship, Tiger comeback, 2018.
My number 2A for you is going to be the Marshalls just letting the people flood that fairway.
Yeah, that was awesome to see.
That was so cool, and just put an exclamation point on what was already just a defining moment in the season. To have the people flood the fairway like that, and to just, I don't know if I could have, or you could have scripted a better way to end that Tour Championship with the way the fans interacted
Tour
with
Championship,
Tiger.
pretty much the end of the season. I mean, I know they have other tournaments here and there in between, from the Tour Championship up including to the new year. But in my eyes, once the Tour Championship hits and football's starting, that's done. Everything else is what it is, in my opinion. But yeah, the end, kind of put icing on the cake or whatever. It was pretty sick to say.
Absolutely. Now I appreciate that, because I was super skeptical after you said about Tiger's Masters win being 4. I was like, he's got to follow that up with something real good. So I'm happy you went that direction, because that's.
I was like, I gotta prove him wrong here. I was like, I kind of took a step back. That hit me in the feels a little bit, saying my list. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah.
Now my number 1 is only because no one's ever held these 2 titles, not even Tiger, at the same time, is Brooks Koepka going back-to-back at the U.S. Open and the PGA Championship. Aaron Hills and Shinnecock for the U.S. Open in 2017 and 2018, and then for the PGA Championship, Bellerive and the Bethpage, 17 and 18. That's just impressive. I don't care who you are, how much of a Tiger fan you are, and should say that one of his moments were the best. And I get that. I'm a Tiger fan till the day I die. But you got to respect good golf and unprecedented golf when you see it. And to hold 2 majors consecutive like that, the golf game has never seen it before. So you got to give props where props is due. And Brooks Koepka not only won those tournaments, but absolutely dominated when he won those majors. So that's my number 1, and I think with good reason.
I have to agree. And before going out and playing, calling everybody out on it too, basically saying, look, 80% of you have no chance, and the other 20% are just playing for second place.
Yeah, he didn't do it in like a Rory McIlroy fashion where he was thanking everyone for coming out and really nice playing with you. He was like, no, 80% of you guys suck, and 20% of you guys, you're not even, I mean, you're here, but are you really here? Because I don't see you. And yeah, to back that kind of talk up with the play, ballsy.
Huge.
And that's something you guys, if you're gonna talk the talk like that, like what they say, you better walk the walk, and he definitely did there.
Oh, no doubt about it. So, Logue, wrap us up for our top 10 from 2020. What you got?
Gosh. This one's probably a little lesser known, and it's not PGA, but it actually goes back to Korn Ferry, but an extension of that, which would be Latin America tour.
Mm-hmm.
If you guys don't know, the Visa Open de Argentina, if you play that event, the winner will get an exemption into the Open Championship. And a local guy that a lot of us are familiar with the name of, a Pennsylvanian, Brandon Matthews, actually was in a playoff to, win the tournament and have a shot at an exemption into the Open Championship. And they get on the, I suppose the final playoff hole, and he's standing over a putt, and a fan yells out from the crowd, screams at him, and it causes him to flinch on his putt, which he misses. And obviously he reacts and turns around and shouts at a fan. After the fact, we come to find out that the fan was, diagnosed, or he has Down syndrome and with special needs. And Matthews was able to go over and assess the situation and made a great connection with the fan and gave him a hug, a ball, glove. And for me to be able to see the impact that a professional golfer can have on people in a situation where he was obviously pissed off, and rightfully so, to see him go over there and, do something sort of in the spirit of Arnold Palmer was pretty awesome to see. You don't see that much.
Not at all. And I think it speaks just to the absolute character and outstanding person that Brandon Matthews is. Going to college like I did in the Scranton area, and Matthews being from that, greater Scranton area himself, he's definitely a very largely talked about figure within that area. And as I went through college, I was only about a year behind him, even though he went to Temple University in Philadelphia. There was a lot of people in Scranton that were constantly saying, hey, this Brandon Matthews kid, he's a little different than the rest. He's got the game, but above all, not only were they complimenting his golf game, they just consistently complimented what a great human being he was and how he treated people throughout, any of the circumstances. And it was really amazing to see that kind of shine through in the worst of moments when he and a lot of other people could have taken the low road and cursed somebody out or, just made a mess of a situation like that. Instead, he turned it into one of the highlights of the year, and that even the Golf Channel had picked up, and, ESPN picked up, and it was a true feel-good story. And I give kudos to Brandon Matthews for being that shining light that we all know is in everyone that plays the game of golf. And hopefully we can get more stories like that in the next decade.
Absolutely there.
So guys, I hope you enjoyed our roundup of the last decade. We're in 2020 now. So yeah, I don't know. Can anything top Tiger in 2019?
I don't know. Probably. Him doing it again. That's what I say.
Tiger can top Tiger.
I love that.
No, but I guess, I don't know if we want to tell the viewers, great start off for the 2020 year. Enjoy the walk. We will be at the PGA show coming up this January in a couple of weeks. We're excited to be down there. I know it's pretty hard to get in. So we'll be there. If any of you guys are there, just give us a shout out and let us know. We'll be happy to meet up and, shoot the shit.
Absolutely. Like Dante said, we are blessed to have the credentialed media passes. So we're going to be out and about and trying to see as many people as we can, and just trying to build relationships within the industry. So if, like he said, if anyone's down there, you can message us up on Twitter or Instagram @_enjoythewalk. If you guys want to set up an interview or anything like that, feel free to email us at enjoythewalk19@gmail.com. We'd be glad to talk with you guys and set something up there. So, or, you guys can reach out to all of us. I don't think we've actually given our own personal Instagrams out. So, mine's at Deardorff, DEARDORFF 1994 on Instagram. You guys can reach out to me on there as well. And Dante, I don't know if you want to give out
mine's at Dante Frederico, all one word, Dante DANTE, Frederico FREDERICO. So give me a follow or give me a shout out. You want to talk? Whatever works. Not follow, I don't care.
That's completely up to you. But if you guys want to follow, mine's IDLogue, IDLOGUE. You can find me on Instagram. I don't have Twitter, but I am on Facebook, Instagram. If you guys want to follow, go ahead, do that, and keep an eye out for some more great content. And follow me on my journey to try to get on the Corn Ferry and ultimately PGA.
Absolutely, guys. I always try and tag these two peeps on every post that we do at Enjoy the Walk. So feel free to look down through our previous posts, and you can find us on there as well. Also, if you guys feel like picking up any merch, we have beanies, t-shirts, long sleeve t-shirts, everything you need on our website, www.enjoythewalk.store. So check that out and feel free to rep the Enjoy the Walk brand wherever you may be enjoying the walk this spring or in the cold season. So as we said, we'll be at the PGA show in 2020. Guys, we are pumped, and thanks for listening to us. As always, enjoy the walk.
Enjoy the walk.
Enjoy the walk.
That's the stuff. One shot at a time.